At 4:14 in the morning on June 24th, 2025, a Russian Cerna-class landing craft carrying 30 troops sped toward the western shoreline of Kherson. To the men on board, it was a standard movement across familiar waters. To Ukraine, it was a gift because for the past 27 minutes, the vessel had been in the crosshairs of a drone circling unseen at 18,000 feet. The aircraft was a Bayraktar TB2, launched from a hidden strip near Mykolaiv hours earlier. Unlike off-the-shelf quadcopters, this was a purpose-built hunter, able to stay aloft for more than a full day. Its small civilian-style engine kept it moving slowly but steadily, making almost no radar signature. The operator guiding it avoided the direct path, weaving around known Russian S-300 zones. Even a drone this small could not afford arrogance, get spotted, and $5 million of hardware could vanish in a fireball. By 3:30, the TB2 reached its patrol zone, a rectangle of sky covering the main approaches to Kherson. From there, its Canadian-made MX-15D sensor scanned the sea. In daylight, it could zoom on a license plate at 20 kilometers. At night, its infrared view painted the cold waters black and highlighted every heat source in white. For nearly 20 minutes, nothing stirred. Then, at 3:47, the first contact appeared, a glowing shape moving west at 30 knots, leaving a visible heat trail behind it. Zoom revealed the outline of a Cerna landing craft. Behind it, two more followed in formation. This wasn't a stray patrol, it was a convoy, and that made it valuable. The operator marked the contacts one by one, recording everything. The lead Cerna was moving quickly, its water jet system pushing the boat across the sea like a racing skiff. Heat signatures crowded the deck. Through the sensor's zoom, shapes of men came into focus. Not sailors tending equipment, but infantry packed tight in tactical gear. By 4:10, the pattern was undeniable. The convoy wasn't heading anywhere random. Its course ran straight toward a stretch of shoreline 8 kilometers west of Kherson, the same sector where Ukrainian scouts had flagged unusual Russian activity days earlier. Inside the ground control station, the operator reached for the secure line. Senior officers were already monitoring the same feed. The choice in front of them wasn't easy. Each MAM-L missile carried on the TB2 cost $70,000. Firing here would expose that Ukrainian drones were operating far to the south, information Moscow could use to tighten its defenses. But letting this convoy slip through meant Russian forces establishing a foothold where Ukraine could least afford it. At 4:15, the decision came down in 3 words: cleared to engage. The TB2 broke from its program patrol and swung wide, setting up behind the convoy. Targeting doctrine was clear: eliminate the lead vessel first to throw the entire formation into disarray. The drone's autopilot aligned the craft for release, guiding it into position. Through the operator's screen, the details sharpened. Individual soldiers leaned against the railings, groups clustered at the stern, sheltering from the wind. Equipment crates lashed down on deck hinted this wasn't just troop transport. The operator steadied his hand. Every second brought him closer to the shot that could decide the fate of 3 Russian boats and everyone on them. Hanging under the TB2's wings were 4 MAM-L smart munitions, purpose-built for exactly this kind of mission. Small, efficient, and deadly, each weighed just 22 kilograms, yet carried a 10-kilogram warhead capable of cutting through light armor or ripping open the thin plating of a landing craft. They were designed for precision, not volume. Every missile mattered. The operator scrolled through his options and chose the most valuable target: the Cerna's bridge. A direct hit there would shatter the vessel's command and control, leaving the troops disoriented and the craft adrift. With a few keystrokes, the TB2's laser designator came alive, projecting an invisible beam onto the Russian ship. On his monitor, crosshairs snapped into place. Range: 12 kilometers. That was still outside the zone where accuracy was guaranteed. He held his fire. 11, 10. Each kilometer closed meant a sharper lock, but also brought the Russians nearer to the shoreline. Every second spent waiting was another second of risk. Then the operator caught movement, Crew members shifted forward, setting up what looked like a heavy machine gun at the bow. Maybe it was a routine precaution before landing. Maybe they suspected something in the darkness. Either way, it raised the tension. Weather conditions were ideal, barely 5 knots of wind at altitude. The TB2's gimbal kept the crosshairs steady, but one moment of hesitation could waste a missile that cost $70,000 and risk exposing the entire operation. At 9 kilometers, his hand tightened around the control stick. At 8, the system chimed confirmation. Within engagement envelope. The chance he had waited for was finally here, and then the screen flashed. Red warning text filled the display. Laser malfunction. Recalibrate. His pulse spiked. He flicked the system off, then back on again, watching seconds bleed away. Down below, the Cerna slowed slightly, adjusting speed for its approach. Troops shifted on deck, their silhouettes crowding together. This wasn't just a ferry of 30 soldiers. Something heavier was hidden in those containers strapped to the hull. 5 seconds passed, then 10. The system's diagnostics cleared, and the laser blinked back to life. Crosshairs returned, locking firmly onto the bridge. The TB2 was armed, locked, and ready. At 4:47, the trigger was pulled. From the TB2's wing, the first MAM-L detached cleanly and dropped into the night air. Within a split second, its folding fins snapped open, stabilizing the glide. The seeker locked instantly onto the reflected laser beam, painting the Russian vessel below. The missile was now a guided dart, accelerating toward its target at nearly 250 meters per second. Time to impact, 43 seconds. On the operator's screen, the Cerna filled more of the frame with every tick of the counter. Soldiers still milled about casually, completely unaware that death was falling from the sky. Some leaned on railings, others adjusted helmets or shifted gear. Through the thermal view, their bodies glowed white against the black canvas of the sea. It looked like any other routine transit, but the operator knew the countdown had already begun. Then came the first sign something was different. Several figures rushed toward the deck's edge and began heaving containers into the water. Heavy rectangular cases splashed into the waves one after another. They weren't panic throws. They were deliberate, controlled. Whatever those crates contained, the Russians wanted them gone before the impact. 30 seconds to go. At the bow, crew members swung a heavy weapon into position, a machine gun mount locked into place. One sailor even pointed upward, shouting, as if he had caught a glimpse of either the drone or the incoming strike. But physics allowed no second chances. At this velocity, no human reaction could matter. 20 seconds. The convoy still held its formation, the trailing boats moving in parallel as the lead Cerna braced for landfall. On the TB2's feed, the operator could see men running back and forth on deck, some trying to secure equipment, others simply frozen by uncertainty. 15 seconds. The missile cut silently through the sky, invisible in the darkness. The TB2's gimbal kept the laser pinned to the bridge, the crosshairs steady no matter how the sea swayed beneath. The system could not waver. Even a slight drift would send the missile veering wide. 10 seconds. The Russian deck erupted in frantic motion. Soldiers scrambled, some diving behind crates for cover, others still hurling cases into the water. They knew something was coming, but they did not know how close. 5 seconds. The operator took a long breath and held the controls steady. Impact. A brilliant white flash tore directly through the center of the Cerna. The warhead detonated with precision, ripping through the thin steel hull in a single devastating strike. Fire and fragments erupted outward, but within moments, a far more revealing chain reaction followed. Secondary blasts lit the sea, spraying white-hot jets into the night sky. These were not fuel stores or stray ammunition. They burned too hot, too fast. The signatures were clear. Demolition charges. The Cerna had not been carrying troops for a landing. It had been loaded for sabotage, and in that instant, the truth became clear. This wasn't a troop landing. It was a covert operation, and the explosion had exposed it. The Cerna split apart within seconds of the impact. The missile had struck midships, and the thin steel plating offered no resistance. Fire spread rapidly across the deck as fuel ignited, sending flames and debris into the water. Several soldiers were killed instantly in the blast. Others attempted to escape, throwing themselves overboard into the burning sea. Amid the wreckage, the containers the crew had tried to discard moments earlier floated to the surface. They were heavy, waterproof cases, clearly marked in Cyrillic script. The TB2's stabilized camera recorded each one, capturing close images of the markings as they drifted among the debris. Every detail was transmitted live. In Kiev, analysts reviewed the feed in real time. They noted the uniforms and equipment did not match standard Russian naval infantry. The containers were not supply crates. Their construction and markings suggested demolition charges. The conclusion was clear. The landing craft had not been carrying troops for a beach landing, but a sabotage unit prepared to attack Ukrainian infrastructure. The TB2 remained on station, its sensors recording the aftermath. Within moments of the strike, the two trailing vessels altered course. One turned sharply north, the other south, accelerating to full speed. Neither attempted to approach the wreck. No effort was made to recover survivors. That decision revealed Russian priorities. The mission was considered compromised. Protecting intelligence was more important than saving men in the water. For Ukraine, the result was significant. A specialized Russian team, trained and prepared for months, had been neutralized in under 2 minutes. Their mission was eliminated before reaching land, and critical evidence had been secured on camera. In the minutes after the strike, Russian radio channels lit up with urgent transmissions. The chatter was not about rescue operations, it was about containment. Orders were issued for all units in the western Black Sea to break off operations and return to base. Satellite imagery later confirmed the movement. Vessels were tracked heading back toward Sevastopol at high speed. Intercepted communications revealed emergency recalls across multiple Russian detachments. The priority was clear: withdraw immediately and reassess. For Ukraine, the significance of the strike went beyond the destruction of a single landing craft. The intelligence gathered from the TB2's footage confirmed that the Russians had been preparing sabotage missions in the region. The demolition charges recovered in the wreckage pointed to planned attacks on infrastructure, not conventional amphibious landings. The elimination of 30 trained operators in one action disrupted those plans. It forced Russia to suspend special operations in the area for weeks. The sudden halt was visible both in satellite monitoring and in the absence of further attempted landings on Ukraine's western shore. For Moscow, the consequences were deeper than the loss of equipment and personnel. A covert mission had been exposed on video, its failure recorded in real time and shared with Ukrainian intelligence. Commanders responsible would face immediate scrutiny. The political fallout was as damaging as the tactical loss. The Bayraktar TB2 had demonstrated its value once again. With a single missile, it removed a threat months in the making and provided Ukraine with undeniable proof of Russia's intentions. The strike reshaped operations in the Black Sea and forced Russian planners to rethink their approach. For the soldiers who believed the sea offered them cover, the lesson was clear. Against eyes in the sky, there was no escape. If you followed the story this far, you're part of a community that values clear, unfiltered coverage of the war's turning points. To keep getting updates like this, make sure to hit subscribe and join us as we uncover the moments shaping history right now.